welcome to everyone. I am Kamalika, your host. And for those of you who are new here, welcome to my LinkedIn Lives, which I conduct twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. And I discuss about the latest buzz from the business and the fintech world. And also for everyone who has taken in the time to join us today, I would love for all of you to chip in on the conversation. So if you're watching the video feed, then do drop a comment. Let us know where you're from, say a hi, and let me know what you're looking forward to and how I can be of assistance. If you are in the audio room, then awesome. Just like what Karthik has done, I would love for all of you to also come up on stage as well and chip in on the conversation wherever you feel you can add value. Awesome. So Karthik is definitely audible. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience before we get started with today's discussion. Karthik, mic is all yours.
I'm a software developer working in New Jersey for Bank of America.
That is awesome. All right. So, with that, I think we're ready to jump into today's discussion. And today's discussion is about this. Well, it's not really new per se. This has been in conversation since November 2021, which is ONDC. Now, ONDC stands for Open Network for Digital Commerce. And as you guys have guessed from the title of the session today, it is touted to be like the UPI moment for e-commerce. So I thought it would be a very interesting thing to talk about how ONDC is going about changing things in the digital commerce space. First, we'll start off with the basics of what exactly is ONDC, who are the stakeholders of ONDC, what is the exact problem that ONDC is looking to solve for the consumers, for the sellers, and more specifically, we will also try to get into some of the challenges that ONDC could possibly face in the road ahead. So let's start off with the first thing. What is ONDC? So ONDC it stands for Open Network for Digital Commerce. Now, it is not a platform or another network for your, it's not another platform or another app for doing e-commerce transactions. Instead, it is a protocol or a framework for creating an open public digital infrastructure to develop and transform the Indian digital commerce ecosystem. And this applies for a variety of segments. It can be goods and services in segments like mobility, grocery, food ordering, and food delivery as well, hotel booking and travel, and logistics support, and a number of other things that that can use this network enabled application. So that is what ONDC is for. Now, what is the purpose behind ONDC? So ONDC, it seeks to, and this is I'm just literally paraphrasing what was there on the website for the ONDC launch. So they're seeking to democratize digital or electronic commerce, moving it from a platform-centric model to an open network. Through ONDC, merchants will be able to save their data to build a credit history and reach out to more consumers. So now it sounds very, very promising, and we're also seeing the world move towards a more open sort of a net. You have open data, you have open finance, you have open banking. Uh, Everywhere that you turn around to, you have some form of democratization of access happening. You have some form of the networks opening up, the platforms opening up. With this, I think it has huge potential to, and we've seen this in the recent past, especially if you're in India, you'll relate to this a lot more. When it comes to restaurants, they have objected against, the Swiggies and Zomatos arbitrarily charging a very high take rate for utilizing their platforms. They then on the e-commerce side also, Amazon and Flipkart have faced a lot of the competition control has come down on them for some of the practices that they have on their platform. For example, Amazon recently got into trouble when merchants or sellers on their sites showed proof that Amazon was promoting the Amazon products over that of others. So that kind of platform dependence was something that a lot of merchants want to reduce. And hopefully, with this ONDC sort of a protocol in place, that could very well happen. But that said, does that mean ONDC is going to become like a new marketplace for buyers and sellers to come together? No. That is exactly what ONDC does not plan to become. They do not plan to become another Amazon or another Flipkart or another Swiggy and a Zomato. Instead, they plan to bring all of these buyers and sellers platform into one protocol that can be easily accessed by anyone, be it a seller or a consumer, even if they do not have these applications. So that is where I think the entire comparison with UPI comes into play, because even with UPI, you do not really need to have that particular bank's application in order for you to, transact using the account that's there on that bank. You can have an account with, say, Axis Bank. You could have the virtual private address of Yes Bank. You could be using the application from PhonePe and still be doing your transaction. So that is kind of what, even ONDC is looking to do here. But just meanwhile, we have Asim with us. Hi, Asim. How are you doing?
Hi, hello everyone. This is a very interesting topic, so I thought of joining in. Actually, I've done a bit of research on this for
Awesome.
ONDC.
So do tell me,
So,
what are your thoughts on this, please?
yeah, sure. So, first of all, there's an organization called Beckn, BECKN. So, all of you
Yeah.
should definitely check it out. It's by this guy called Sujit Nair. He is the chief architect of Aadhaar. So he's that guy knows what he's talking about. And his next pursuit is this whole ONDC and Open Network for E-commerce. So there are two main things for this. One is that these protocols are not for your big players like Amazon or Flipkart or Blinkit or any other these modern delivery stores. These protocols are for your bottom of pyramid kind of players. Those players who are very small, they cannot afford to have a delivery boy on their own. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you have a kirana shop in your lane, okay, and that guy's at a very small scale. He cannot afford his own delivery, and he's facing tough competitions from the like of Blinkit and Amazon. So what you do is in the future, if ONDC is implemented, how the future will look like is you go on any of the apps. So for UPI, you can use any app like Amazon Pay, Paytm, your mobile bank app, right? So similarly, you can go on any app and you can access ONDC through ONDC, and then you place an order that look, I want a packet of bread. Then what will happen is this request will be broadcasted to all your nearby kirana stores. And let's say the one guy decides, okay, I want to fulfill this order, he'll accept it. Now, this is between you and the kirana store. Now, the next part is the last mile delivery. So now that guy will tie up, let's say, with Dunzo or any other last mile delivery there, and he'll send out a request again on ONDC that look, I want to deliver this item from my place to my customer's place. Again, this will be broadcasted to all the last mile delivery players who will be on ONDC network. And again, these are not your top level players like Dunzo or Amazon. These are small players who have just started in this last mile delivery business. So one of them will accept it, and then he or she will send a delivery boy, and they'll fulfill this order. So this is how it will work, which is open for all. Anyone can take part in this. Any order request will be open for all. There won't be any one player who will be dominating the market. And yeah, that's a real life example of how this will look like if people start adopting it.
That's a brilliant point, Asim, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because I did want to touch upon the framework that ONDC has. So, if you are joining in on the LinkedIn video live, you will be able to see image that I have projected, which talks about the various components of ONDC. So, on one side, you have the ONDC network services, and the services have a lot of things what Asim was just mentioning. You have a registry service. Registry is basically what will allow you to, kind of broadcast the goods or services that you have with you available. You have network policies to regulate what or what should not be sold on the platform. You have a reputation ledger. I think for e-commerce, that's like a huge thing, where people do not know whether to trust a particular merchant online or not. Open data ledger, interoperable networks, and a payment processor, by the way, for which PhonePe has also bought like a minority stake into ONDC. So that's a very interesting development there as well. On the other side, you have for the buyers, you have the OCEN network also, which will feed into ONDC. Now, OCEN stands for Open Credit Enablement Network. So if you are a small business, like what Asim was mentioning, a mom and pop kirana store round the corner, and but you've been having a good flow of consumers coming in, you're able to retain a good set of your consumers over there, then you can possibly get access to loan which you may not have gotten previously. And you have the buyer side app, you have the seller side app on both sides as well. So if you see on the seller side app, you have supermarkets, kirana stores, retailers, logistic providers, and other service providers. So that's very interesting. Another thing, Asim, that I did want to add here was that uh, so the people, the chair, or the advisors, not the chair, sorry, the advisors were sitting in at the ONDC council. They have reached out to the likes of Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy, Zomato, and all of those. Right now, I do not know why I'm not able to remember the name of the logistics partner. I don't think it was Dunzo, but it was another one that's equally big, and I cannot remember their name. But yes, one of the major logistic partners that operates in the country has agreed to be a part of the stakeholders of ONDC that's there currently, and they would, at least ONDC's the people at ONDC want to work with the likes of Swiggy and Flipkart. But yes, their main target are going to be enabling those who aren't as digitally savvy to have a like a digital presence. So thank you so much for bringing that point up. But since we are talking about stakeholders, I thought I'll quickly also give like who are the other stakeholders involved in the project. So this is an initiative of the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. It stands. The short form is DPIIT, and it is in association with the Retailers Association of India. The CEO of RAI also sits on the ONDC Council. You have CAIT, or the Confederation of All India Traders, also there. Then you have the likes of Nandan Nilekani, R.S. Sharma, oh God, I forgot the name of the tri head, but they were all, part of the NPCI council as well. So there is like Asim just mentioned, they know their stuff quite well over there. So better to pay attention to ONDC than ignore it right now. Interestingly, some of the other stakeholders have bought in about 8 to 10% share into ONDC happen to be some of the biggest banks in the country. SBI has near about 9.99, almost 10% stake in ONDC. PNB has also bought almost equivalent amount. HDFC, Kotak, Axis each own about 8% stake in ONDC. They've all invested between 10 to 25 crores into ONDC already. And these are banks are generally very, very cautious. So if they are paying attention, there must be something to the ONDC story that we should be listening into, right? But all right. With that said, I think we can move on to the problem that ONDC is aiming to solve for. Now, Asim put this up very, very beautifully. And I think I'll just quote a few stats over here to get that point across. So, right now in 2021, the e commerce market in India was around 700, 800 million. That is expected to reach $5.5 billion by the end of 2025. Now, that's a huge jump, and this is vetted by a lot of consulting firms like Red Sears and all of them. ONDC aims to help drive this entire thing up with more innovations and including a wide range of players within its ambit. So that's one very interesting proposition that ONDC does have, and I would love to see how they go about doing it, because their entire aim is to democratize commerce, and that's a huge, huge vision over there. From a consumer standpoint as well as from the millions, I think there are 60 million merchants, small and medium enterprises in India. So that is a huge ask, a very tall demand that they have up there. Uh, Also, it is like very much like what Asim mentioned for small retailers. It is going to help provide the backend system for them so that they can easily go online. They can easily sell to people across different geographies. So that is another problem that they do aim to solve for. Now, how does ONDC aim to make the life of consumers better? Now, this is like a very interesting thing that we should be paying attention to, because we have n number of platforms already present. So, what is it that ONDC is doing different? Right, all of us would want to know that. So, for consumers, right now, it is like a manual task for us to figure out which platform. There are like 3 4 different e-commerce platforms that are there, and it's quite a hassle for us to figure out if platform A is indeed giving us the best deal possible. And I don't know about you guys, but I do this a lot. Whenever I want to buy a book, I keep comparing it across Amazon, Ureads, Flipkart, and all of those, and then figure out, okay, this is like the best deal I'm getting on this book. Let me use that. So that price discovery, guys, is going to become so much more easier for consumers like you and me. We just have to have the front end from ONDC, and we'll easily be able to figure out which is the platform giving us the best offer or the best price for this particular good. So that is definitely how life, at least to me, that was like the highlight when I read the ONDC strategy paper about how they're making life easier for consumers. But the bigger problem, the bigger show is going to be on the seller side, especially the small kirana stores that our friend Asim was just talking about. So how are they making sellers' life easier? And this is especially true for small merchants from tier 2, tier 3 non-metro cities, because you will not believe it, the number of goods that are coming in from cities like Surat and in down south from Tiruchirappalli and all of those. They're amazing quality, but the only thing that's holding these people back is the fact that they're not able to reach beyond their physical geographical boundaries. Now with this, and ONDC has a target of 12 million kirana shops that they want to digitize and help democratize the access to platforms. That's going to be like a huge opportunity for them to expand their consumer base. The next thing that is quite interesting that ONDC plans to play into is something called dynamic pricing. Now, what is dynamic pricing? We all understand demand supply curve, right? So ONDC is going to provide merchants with the ability to dynamically price their goods. If they see the demand for their particular, just let's go back, 2 years and rewind to when COVID struck. There was a astronomical surge in masks and sanitizer and sanitization products. So if you are a merchant and you are an ONDC, you'll be able to see that demand coming in and accordingly price your products as well. So that is, of course, there will be a price and there will be a floor and a ceiling price as well, because most of these are regulated and by either the chair of commerce and stuff like that. But yes, you will potentially be able to be, if you have the inventory, you'll be able to make that much more money if you are a small owner. Another thing is cost optimization. Now this was very interesting because ONDC plans to reduce the cost of doing businesses for small businesses. And how they plan to do that is by standardizing several of their operational aspects, like cataloging, inventory management, order fulfillment, and all of these. So that is definitely a very interesting aspect of ONDC over there for small merchants as well. And I think this has a huge potential of making it that much more easy for businesses to operate online. So businesses can completely get rid of that entire headache and focus on just doing business, just producing those quality goods and services for their end consumers. Another, oh, whoops, I almost forgot an advantage that sellers, consumers will have. We spoke on the seller side, but another advantage that consumers would have is they'd be able to, and this ties back to, the image that we saw a while back on the framework that ONDC has. You have something called a reputation ledger. So this will tell users even before they go into it's almost like what you have the star rating on Flipkart and Amazon, but you would also be able to see how fast, if there were any claims made for these merchants goods, how fast were they able to resolve it, what was the resolution mechanism that they had employed, how many of their total sales, what is the volume that gets refunded or that gets claimed back by the user. So you'd be able to also get like a good sense of the quality of the goods that is there. So that I think is a huge advantage. None of us are going to be fooled like the way that had happened a few years back with Snapdeal, where instead of an iPhone they'd given us a brick. If it is a merchant that's done this in the past, you'll automatically get to, and it can be across any platform. They could have done it on Snapdeal, shut shop over there, and then moved on to Amazon and following the same tactic. But because it's an open network, with that amount of transparency present, you will be able to see that and figure out, okay, this is definitely a merchant I need to avoid. Then moving on, that's about the advantages that I can see with ONDC at least. So what are some of the, and this is like the most important part, by the way, what are some of the challenges and roadblocks that ONDC has? And I think they have a bunch of things to overcome before they can actually even think of becoming that mainstream. The biggest thing is, here you are kind of decoupling the buyer side app and the seller side app. So there's going to be a separate seller side app and there's going to be a separate buyer side app. For people like us, we have to, maybe if we are say searching on Amazon, and if Amazon has integrated with, let's assume Amazon is also integrated with ONDC, the request, like Asim mentioned a while back, will be broadcast to the seller side app, and anyone who has that will provide us with their catalog. Won't this impact the user's journey for us, especially for us buyers? It's going to be a bad, like, we'll have to wait for that data to come in. We'll have to wait for it to be collated by the network and sent to us. Then we'll have to use the price discovery mechanism and figure out which one. So I think it has like way too many steps for us users to find it to be a seamless, as seamless as using our apps on say Amazon or Flipkart right now. That is definitely one roadblock. The next one is, who's responsible right now? Remember when we were talking about the stakeholders, we had a bunch of them. We had CAIT, we had RAI, we had NRI, we had Telecom Authority, DPIIT, and so many other entities involved. But when things go south, who's really going to be responsible for it? Who's responsible for the dispute resolution? Now, I know that the people at DPIIT have said that yes, there's going to be a protocol for all of this, but in case the protocol is not able to resolve this successfully, in case we still want to raise a query or want to raise a dispute over this, where do we go? Ideally, if this was on an e-commerce platform, we would have gone to the consumer court, but now I don't know, that clarity is still not there. The third thing which is there is on the policy front. Uh, because e-commerce right now is governed by Consumer Protection, Competition Committee of India, Foreign Direct Investment, IT, retail, so many others. What happens? And you're adding all of these entities also to ONDC. That's a little like, who regulates the policies? It's just going to be too many regulations, and we all know what happens when there are too many chefs cooking the broth, right? uh, the fourth point is on the data side, because it's an open network. You're saying there's open data. Who owns the data? Who can use it? How can they use it? These are some questions that are yet to be answered by the ONDC strategy paper. Another thing, and this was a point that Asim had brought up, while people on the ONDC chair are trying to tie up with big retailers like the Reliance and the Tatas, big e-commerce players like Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy, Zomato, most of them have maintained radio silence on their inputs on ONDC. So what happens if these biggies do not plan to join in? That's going to again go back to the first point, on the consumer experience side of it. um, then we have another point. The sixth point would probably be on the loyalty programs that a lot of these brands offer. Amazon and Flipkart have, Amazon has Prime, Flipkart has Flipkart First, Zomato has Gold, Swiggy has Swiggy Super. All of these loyalty programs, how do they fit in when we have a structure like ONDC? And finally, and this is I think the most important problem that ONDC has to solve for, and we've seen this in the case of UPI, so it's a legit issue right here too. Can ONDC in the future put a cap on the participation that each of their members have? We've seen UPI do that with putting a 30% cap on the user base for any UPI player, and this is significantly going to be impacting the likes of GPay and PhonePe. If this happens for a retail platform, and they right now, okay, you're trying to consolidate the 60 million odd MSMEs that you have in the country, but what if tomorrow they put up that cap over there, and a player that has been doing well because of the quality of goods that they were providing now suddenly does not have that competitive advantage because ONDC has decided to put a cap? These are some of the things that I think needs a lot more clarity on. before we can actually call ONDC a success or not a success. But that is about all that I had planned for today. Session. I do hope all of you got a better understanding of what it is that ONDC plans to do, and what, more importantly, what the challenges are. I would love to hear back from all of you on how you think ONDC can solve for these challenges and get that conversation going. With that said, I wish you all a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you for joining in, and see you again on Friday. Bye.